Hi, and welcome to the NBA Economy Show. Yes, it has been a little while, but it's glad to be back. Life is lifing. We are looking at where are the Knicks now. Um, Last time we talked was a little less than 2 weeks ago. We saw that the Knicks had hired Mike Brown, um, and basically they're about to start summer league. And we see summer league. The Knicks played 5 games, 4 games plus the consolation game. Um, so they are summer league is over. No, we didn't win the summer league championship, and it was not really important um, for that for summer league. It's you can't put too much stock into summer league, but it gave us some insight on some players, and we could probably some players deduce where they will be next season based on what we saw in summer league. There were some key players that a lot of us keyed on during summer league. We're just gonna quickly go over just the roster, some of the players who played, and since summer league, what 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 do we see going forward for them? So now we're looking at the summer league roster. We saw from top to bottom, Bacom Dadier. Everybody was primed to see what Bacom Dadier would do in here. We know last year, yeah, he really didn't get a time to show out. But we saw in a couple games that he looked decent. He looked decent. Um, he looked a little stronger than he did last time. I don't I don't think he hurt or helped himself in summer league. His numbers weren't like outstanding, but the cutting was good. The shooting wasn't so great. Um, but I think he showed what he needed to in the summer league. Unfortunately, with the facial injury, we weren't able to see him more than a couple games. Um, but it was nice to see Pacome Dadier. Kevin McCullough is another one. We only saw him for a few games, but he really showed well. Like he was really aggressive. Um, he had a really good 30-point scoring game. I really don't think that's the role he would play on the Knicks. Um, but it really did show that he really did come to play. He was aggressive. He was what his team needed him to be in those couple games. I wish that we could have seen him for more. Tyler Kolek is probably the one I came out disappointed on. Wasn't necessary to play at the first 2 games. Horrible, horrible, horrible games for Tyler Kolek, and then you kind of seen him warm up after that. But I think he actually kind of hurt himself in summer league. He physically did not look any stronger since the season. I know it's only been a couple of months, but that should have been his focus: is on getting physically stronger, um, strong shooting, and trying on defense could get him into the game. But I think squarely after summer league, you can't look at Tyler Kolek being as the main backup for Jalen Brunson. He just isn't ready. I would even question um, if his future is long term. I would at this point, if they ask to put him in a trade, I may if it takes to sweeten the trade. I just don't think unless he put in a ridiculous amount of effort, um, that he is truly ready. Uh, excuse me. Marjan Beauchamp, um, he had to do a 180 because he absolutely horrible in a few games. He was aggressive in every game, um, looking to score. Very early on, kind of selfish play. At times we saw that he tried to find teammates, but it is very evident that he is a scorer. That's what he is. He may find footing in the NBA, as maybe a microwave off the bench, but it's truly as just an offensive threat. The defense isn't there. Overall, the shooting numbers weren't great overall. Um, I don't think Marjon Beauchamp will make the Knicks roster, or they're unable to sign him as a 2 way because he just passed his fourth year and he's going into. So I really think Beauchamp may find himself on another team. I think he showed enough offense, um, you know, that he should be in the G League. But I don't think an NBA roster is where he's going to start next season. Yuta Baba, his age shows that he's basically a G League player, looking to get on the end of a roster. Seemed really aggressive. He showed like he showed that he can be an energy guy off the bench. It just won't be with the Knicks. I think maybe somebody takes a flyer on him mid-season. Anton Watson, um, showed flashes, but overall not a good summer league showing. I really doubt that he gets a 2 way, um, but he may find himself on somebody's roster as a two-way contract. Uh, Not too much on Jamal Bay. He played sparingly. But Wally Bales played sparingly. Um, Dink Pate, one of the two standouts in summer league, um, showed energy from the very beginning. He gotten better game to game, which is huge. Um, at first, it was the transition. It was the effort. I really like seeing him getting down in his defensive stance. He looked like he was looking to impress the coaches, and his effort really impressed. He wasn't getting a lot of minutes at first. By the last game, when he absolutely showed out, he's shown that he had the full package. I wouldn't get too excited. He is gonna get a 2 way. Um, you know, we my guy Lee uh, was in was in contact, so he is gonna get a 2 way contract. But don't get too excited that he's gonna just be a rotation piece because you've seen great things in G League. It really doesn't work like that. He's gonna have to put his work in practice and kind of force his way, once there's an injury or something, to get him on the court. Jaden Campbell, not a lot of time. Devonte Grant, um, not a lot of time, but he had some really good play, the last few games. Nick Jordan, not a lot of play. Lucas Kuka, not a good showing. Lance Ware had some moments, but not a good showing. Another key person, James Nagy, um, from FC Barcelona. A lot of people were looking at him maybe just walking onto the team. Um, he's a physical specimen. He was already in the United States after the draft. He was looking forward to summer league. He was looking to get signed by the Knicks. I really don't think he gets a two-way spot on the Knicks. I think he starts out in the G League. You really have to question: do you want to go to the G League or do you want to go back to FC Barcelona? So it doesn't look good for him this year to be joining the Knicks. Um, it could be a situation where somebody would like him and would, you know, offer the Knicks something in return from James Najee. That could be it. But it doesn't look good, James Najee. Um, and the star of Summer League, Mohamed Dawara, really came out of nowhere. He was a surprise pick by the Knicks by some. He was on the board earlier in the year, but he kind of slid off the board as the college season went on. Some people called him like Baby Siakam. Really showed an aptitude uh, for passing, keeping a heads up. I think I'm trying not to get too excited, but he is someone who I we expect to get. We kind of expected for him to be signed to the roster, but I think I wouldn't be too surprised by the end of by spring, he's logging low rotation minutes. I wouldn't be surprised. Ariel Hukporti played a little bit. Actually, I really thought he would be more impressive since he did play some like a little stretch of NBA minutes. Um, but it shows that he needs a little bit more work. He's not. I don't think he's ready to become just the prime backup center just yet. He could be there by training camp, but he's just not there yet. So those are kind of my assessments for where the Knicks are in summer league. What they put forward in summer league. Um, it's an interesting time. I really wish it was more exciting, but it's summer league. Um, we weren't good. We went 1-4. We really weren't in the hunt. You had to really just pay attention to individual performance because overall we didn't look good as a team. I was kind of surprised. Um, I thought maybe we'd see some kind of Brown scheme or preview of something we would see during the season, but it was not that. It was just let's just get the guys out there and playing. Um, First few games, the Knicks lost. Very little continuity. So summer league is over with. These players know what they have to work on. I'm really worried for Kolek. Um, McCullough probably earned himself a two-way. I don't think he's going to get a regular contract right now. I think Pate earned himself a two-way. Um, Looks very promising. And the second round exception looks like it's going to be Mohamed Dawara. There's no announcement, but it just looks very obvious that should go to him. He really showed out, and summer league. I'm just gonna look at some of the comments real quick. Mikel P representing, and he had comments about Kolek. Kolek played better in summer league last year, and he played well against NBA teams in the regular season. This summer league was bad for Kolek. I absolutely agree. Also, Pate is raw, so very raw. But you can't teach 6'8", and you can't teach effort. Like someone who's like actively, He's not just there's not. It wasn't like he's just he's naturally fast. Like he knows like he's coming in to be a dog. I really like that. Like he came in and was like, I'm willing to do the dirty work. Um, I'm willing to do whatever. I really think that's the best way to get on the floor with these Knicks. Okay, Mikel P reports that Najee wanted out of Barcelona, and G League players can get poached. Yes, so yes, he can get poached. But he is. We do have his rights, so that's one of the differences. If Robinson starts, we may need Najee as a 2A, uh, as insurance at the 5. I currently think Huckporty is insurance at the 5. I'm really questioning if Mitchell will be on this team by the beginning of the season. Um, I really do question it. We'll probably get to it in a minute, but I really do question. Um, Also, Dwyer is impressive. I can see him becoming part of the rotation if there's an injury. Getting the rookie spot on a 15 man and being able to play more games in a 2A may be the better option. Yeah. So I think he's definitely going to get that rookie second round exception. Second round exception, you are an NBA player. You can play all the games, you can play the playoffs. If you're a 2A player, you are capped at 50 games. And once you go over that 50 games, you can no longer. Um, you don't even have to play in 50 games. You just have to dress for 50 games. And once you go over that, you can no longer play. What the Knicks did last year is they reached that mark with a lot of players, and then they just cut those players and then signed other 2 ways. Um, they may have to pace themselves. I don't think they really want to cut a Dink Pate. I don't think they want to cut a Kevin McCullough. So what I think is going to happen is they may have to pace themselves, and when it comes to McCullough and expecting Pate and another player, they'll probably sign McCullough or Pate to that 15th roster spot um, later in the season, and then they'll be eligible for the playoffs. They'll be an NBA player. That's what I think is going to happen. Um, so I really expect those two to be NBA players. I don't really have a. I really don't have a clue who that third person would be. It could be somebody on this roster. It could be somebody on another roster who's another team didn't sign. So we'll see where that goes. Um, so yep, that's what it is for Summer League. And what is other up to date news with the Knicks? Well, the Knicks are well. We do remember that they did sign a coach, Mike Brown, and they're looking for a new top assistant. And the Knicks received permission to interview Timberwolves coach Pablo Prigioni, the former Knick, for a role on Mike Brown's coaching staff. And he's been on Minnesota, and he has been basically their offensive coordinator. There's a video on the internet of him explaining his role. He really did a lot of work reinventing their offense. So remember, he's a year removed from Cat, and he's a year removed from Cat and all the players they had in Minnesota. So he can give them good insight on best how to use Cat. Um, he's a rising star around the league. the Knicks also got a no on several um, top assistant requests. Also, it says the Knicks are looking to add one assistant coach to Brown's staff. So it looks like there's going to be some holdover from Thibodeau's time here. So it's not a clean house situation. Looks like Maurice Cheeks, Mark Bryant, Rick Brunson, Darren Erman will remain on staff. The one name you don't see on here that it's been familiar to Knicks fans is Yasumoto. So his name is not on this list. So he may not be safe. Um, and also, Knicks were interested in Jay Triano and Darvin Ham to add to the staff. So we'll see what's going on with this Knicks staff soon. So the Knicks had Summer League. We had staff. And now we're going to turn our attention to the roster. So we're going to look at what the current site. And I'm using capsheets.com. And it's been Yossi Goslin, capologist, YouTuber. He makes this great site, and it's very informative on how this works. So this is who signed for this season on the Knicks. So all these players are guaranteed. So Huck Porty is on the list. Kolek is on the list. Already signing Jordan Clarkson. Already signing Gershon Yabusele. And it shows how far we are away from the second apron. So we are 3.7, a little over 3.7 away from the second apron. We can't go over the second apron even if we wanted to, because we are hard capped. Okay, so the Knicks can sign a vet, and they can sign a rookie, and the practice is to have 14 players on the roster and fill this 15th place right before the playoffs. So what could we see here? So we have one vet, one rookie. And the consensus is Diawara is going to get the rookie slot. So who's into the 13th spot? We've seen recently some of the vets that a lot of people were going after got signed. So we've seen it looks like Chris Paul will be going to Chris Paul looks like he'll be going to the LA Clippers. You see Dame has returned to the Blazers. So some of the big names left. Let's see who are the big names left in free agency. We're going to go to the free agency tracker. First name you see up here is Precious. So let me see. So Bol, Bismack Biyombo, Reese Beekman, Marjan. Malik Beasley is radioactive because of that gambling situation. It doesn't look good for him. Chris Boucher is still unsigned. Malcolm Brogdon also unsigned. But we have to really think of Malcolm Brogdon. Does he want a strictly a backup role with who we have on the roster. So on our roster currently now, we have Clarkston, we have Deuce, hopefully Josh Hart on the bench. So that doesn't leave a lot of time if you're signing a Malcolm Brogdon. So it doesn't look like that's the kind of player we particularly may want to roll here. Um, what I personally think is going to happen is I think the Knicks aren't done. Like, I really don't think that they're done. I think they could do a consolidation trade. Um, you have to really think about where the roster is now. Is a Kolek really going to help you if you're in a pursuit of a championship on some of these stacked rosters? So keeping a Kolek here, no. But if I can combine a salary and Kolek and get back one player, um, that may be better than letting Kolek try to figure it out this year to look at Summer League next year and to see if he's up to par when we know he really doesn't have much of a defensive ceiling. So that's what I'm kind of looking at right now. Um, if you're in the chat, if there's certain names that you personally um, would be looking at, there's a couple names in my mind, because in my mind, what the Knicks should be hunting for is the fifth starter. So a fifth starter, the type of fifth starter I'm talking about won't be cheap. Um, so names such as Austin Reeves, who I think is a special situation. Um, I think he's very good player. I don't think the Lakers think he's a bad player. I don't think the Lakers want to get rid of him. But Austin Reeves turned down a 4-year, $89 million contract. Um, he wants more. He scored 20 points a game this year. When LeBron wasn't in the lineup, he absolutely dominated. Like, when LeBron wasn't in the lineup, he scored over 27 points a game, 27, 5 and 5. That's all-star numbers. That's, close to, that's all NBA type of numbers. Um, so he wants to get paid. 22 million a year wasn't going to do it. The problem with the Lakers or any team that trades for him, the most they can offer him is 4 years, 89 million till next summer. The next summer, he is free to do whatever he wants. So to bring him back, you have to be the highest bidder, and he can get upwards of 50 million a year. So if you trade for him now and say, hey, I'm going to offer him something reasonable next year. Hey, we're gonna offer you 30 something million. He can easily go out there and get 40 something million. And if he takes that deal, you're left with nothing. If he has a good season, he's gonna want that 50. So that's kind of like that danger zone. Even though you could see the player and you may want the player, that's the danger zone. Like, he's gonna want 40 million a year, and 40 million a year is more than Mikal Bridges wants right now. So you're talking about extending Mikal, and not only that, extending him for an additional 25 million more than he's making now. Now you've blown way past the second apron. So you must love this team if 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 you have them there. And the only way you really do that is, first off, you don't care about going over the second apron for multiple years, and you have to kind of get in order. Where are you with Karl Anthony Towns extension? Does Karl Anthony Towns want more money? Because if Karl Anthony Towns wants more money, you're looking at being over the second apron more than 2 years. So now, so now you're in trouble. Now you need to start thinking about, is this just a 2 year window? So you may be limiting yourself by getting a better player. So that's kind of the danger you have with a player like Austin Reeves. I would be interested. Um, it just would push up the urgency. You wouldn't have to. You don't want to be a team that's in the mix. You would need to be confident that you're the best team in the East doing something like that. You're basically putting yourself in a Boston situation, where Boston, uh, it was lovely for 2 years, and then this year they just had to like tear it down. So that's kind of the situation where I feel that would be. Um, yeah, salute to still Knicks fans. Also, Miguel B. Lakers see Reeves as part of their future plans. I kind of think so. I think they're gonna have to figure out what what's important to them. I wouldn't be surprised if they still trade him, even if they liked him. If he's looking at getting 45 million a year, there's nothing you can do. Um, you're basically locked into Luca, who's about to get 75 million a year, plus adding 45 for Reeves, and now you're locked 110 million, 120 million on your backcourt, and your backcourt has defensive issues. So I think it may not be just them liking him. I think the right trade with a stable salary, he could be out of there. Um, Another name that could be interesting, maybe not on this off season, but maybe mid season, is with the Blazers. So with the Blazers, uh, adding Damian Lillard. Um, Lillard went back. He has a nice little situation. He can rehab at home near his kids like he always wanted. Um, the he was, before this he was talking about coming back next year. Now the language of Blazers, they put the language as if he's going to be taking the entire season off. So we're going to see a tanking season by the Blazers. Um, Scoot basically has a year to impress, but not the Blazers, because Lillard is about to get this starting job, and he signed for 3 years. So in those 3 years, you really want a chance to win a championship. So Scoot, even though he is around 6'2", can play multiple positions. The problem, the other favorite players on the Blazers are Shaden Sharp, Tomani Kamara. And do they get the shooting guard, and small forward spots. So you're almost saying, Scoot, after this year, you're relegated to be a backup. And you're eligible next year, you're eligible for an extension. So in your extension year, we're looking to extend you as a backup player. So does Scoot say, let me play out this year as best I can, and then next summer you trade me? Or does he say, get me out of here now, um, so I can, you know, put some sweat equity in another team so they can extend me as than a more than a backup. So he could be someone to look at. Even though he'll be back up in the Knicks, he can have an expanded role. He can have an expanded role on his team. He's definitely an upgrade over Kolek. Even so, he hasn't had the best. He hasn't fulfilled the promise of being the high pick he was, but he's a huge upgrade of what we have currently. Um, and if you can find a spot where you can give him 30 minutes, that'd be interesting. That would also probably mean moving someone like a Deuce to get him the amount of time that he needs. Um, so he is another person um, I would be interested in. The other person that I'd be interested in knowing more about is Jaden Ivey. So I was a big Jaden Ivey fan before this. He only played 30 games last season. He got injured. Um, the problem is Detroit wants to heavily invest in Cade. They've given Cade the reins, so to speak. They've given him the contract. They've surrounded him with shooters. Um, Jaden Ivey kind of takes away from Cunningham, and Ivey wants to run, and Ivey and Cunningham doesn't. So, do they trade Jaden Ivey? So that's where my interest goes in. None of these trades would be easy. They're not, hey, let's swap one player for one player. I think they would be kind of complicated. I also don't think they would be cheap. Jaden Ivey, they're not going to give him away, even though he was injured last season. You're talking about giving up assets for Jaden Ivey. But Jaden Ivey is the type of guy who could take the ball out of Jalen Brunson's hands, like a lot of us want to, and he wants to run, like Mike Brown wants to. So Jaden Ivey really intrigues me. So that's like another name that intrigues me on the list. Um, yeah, so those are the names I had so far. I'm gonna look at the chat again. I say if they buy out LeBron, they might be able to pay Reeves. Actually, Reeves doesn't need to get paid this year. Basically, it's next year. So, but they kind of had like a big, they have these picks. Basically, they can go out next year and get a star player if they don't pay Reeves. Reeves is getting what Reeves wants is a star player. Star player salary. Could they get a star player and then move Reeves? So unless you think Reeves is going to be your star with Luka, but most likely you want a front court star, to star with Luka. Miguel B. Sounds like you want to trade for Scoot and play JB off ball. Um, it's something that he can grow into. Like, we've seen him play better. Um, I I I, I kind of like Scoot because he hasn't blown up yet. Perhaps you can extend him for less than you can extend an Ivy or a Reeves. Maybe you can get him on cheap before he really gets it. But I really love his aggressiveness. I really like his feel for the game. His shooting just has to improve. McKelvey, I think Ivy has an emotional attachment to Detroit because of his mother. Yes, I think he has, and yeah, he kind of grew up around, um, around the NBA. He's an NBA kid, like a lot of the Knicks. So I think the Knicks could be a great spot for him. Um, I just think I just think the X's and O's may make him available. Um, Last year I probably wouldn't have talked about it because he was just on his way last season. But it seems like Detroit um, wants to have Cunningham as the distributor, um, followed by talent, and they don't really want to take that ball out of his hands. That's what I have for now. I do have a lot of subjects that I want to broach, so we'll have individual live streams for those. I'm sorry for the last few weeks. I kind of been busy, but we'll have more regular discussions. We do have a few people who say they want to come on for some interviews, and we'll talk about their fandom. I definitely do have a couple Knicks fans, but I want to have some other people, other fans, the Knicks, to talk about their fandom. Perhaps some semi-famous people coming on, talk about their fandom, and probably talk about what they do, non-basketball related. So that's what I have. So we are up to date on the Knicks. So we are up to date on the coaching. So we're looking at Prigioni. We are up to date on the summer league. At the performances of our players. So it looks like Diawara and Pate will be on the roster. Diawara as a signing onto the roster. Dink Pate as a two-way. Um, I seriously would think that Kevin McCullough also gets a two-way. No clue on as for the third. I think Kolek put himself kind of in jeopardy. He's obviously not ready physically. He should have been one of those players who were too good for summer league since he did so well in the G League last year. He should have been too good for summer league, and he just wasn't that. So I think he puts himself in danger. Um, so the Knicks, as far as those moves, James Najee is going to be a hard. He's going to be a hard one to place on the Knicks unless there's another move coming. I don't doubt that there's another. I don't. I wouldn't. I really do think that another move is coming. Um, we haven't talked about Mikal Bridges, so we'll talk about that right now. So, Mikal Bridges is eligible for his extension. So, his extension his max extension would start under 40, so around $38 million a year, and go up from there. Um, if the Knicks gave the max extension available to Mikal Bridges, there would be not a lot left to re-sign and extend Mitch Robinson. One curious thing that happened over the last few weeks is that the NBA gave their projections for the following year. So the cap, not for this year, but the following year is going up 7%, and it's not going up 10%. Um, in theory, a lot of us thought, hey, that with this new TV deal, they're adding so much money that the cap would go up 10% for the next 4 or 5 years easily. But that hasn't happened. The reason being is as the NBA is getting more money, the local networks, like the MSGs, um, these local broadcasts, all these networks are losing money. We see recently MSG was trying to sell that portion of their business. Um, a lot of those business they're having a hard time. They're losing tons of money. So instead of 10% up, the following year it's only gonna be 7. So when you thought the cap was gonna jump 18 million, it's only gonna jump 13 million. But a lot of teams already penciled in 18 million. So now you have to look at that following year and say, okay, we have to, if we're going to try to stay under the second apron, we have to give out 5 million less that year. So that's where it could impact players. That's where it can impact Mitch. So it's probably harder for the Knicks to think about adding Mitch than they thought maybe a month ago. So, yeah, it's going to be very difficult. I think Mitch is worth 15 million easy. So I think if the Knicks put an offer, at least 15 million for him to say yes. I think it could be higher than that. If uh, I what I do here on Twitter sometimes is people are saying, "Oh, make Mitch prove it." So if Mitch plays, he doesn't even have to have a great year. 60 games, but he's impactful. You could see next year teams offering Mitch 20, close to 25 million a year, which sounds ridiculous, but that's his impact. That's what the market probably would bear, and then the Knicks let him walk for free. So you have to think: am I going to pay him? If assuming I'm going to give Mikel a certain amount of money, am I going to pay him and go into the second apron, or do I move him as a value piece for something else I need? And that's where me personally, I think you have to maybe trade him for value. The issue is that once you get rid of Mitch, you have to replace him. And Huck Porty is not a Mitch replacement. Like defensively, he can't. Right now, he's falling out. He's, you know, I know your starter is Karl Anthony Towns, but what if Karl Anthony Towns is out, and then now you have to rely on Huck Porty for 30 minutes a game? How's that going to look? So so if you look at using him in a trade, you got to look at replacing him. That's where it gets complicated. You have to get someone defensively who can hold down. No one will replace his offensive rebound, but you got to get someone decent to stand in there, and that's not Huck Porty. That's not James Najee. So I think Mikel was very visible during summer league. He didn't look like he was disgruntled, so he was sitting right next to the coach. Some of these tense negotiations, sometimes you see a player stay away from the team. That wasn't Mikel. Mikel looked like he's in it. Looks like he's in it. So I really don't. I really do think he's going to get a contract. He could be doing the smart thing. Um, he could be waiting to sign. And this is something last year the uh, Utah Jazz did with Laurie Marketing. They knew they were going to sign Laurie Marketing. They made the space for Laurie Marketing, but Laurie Marketing did not sign until August 7th to make sure that since he could be traded 6 months, 6 months from when he was signed, to make sure that his 6 months hit the day after the trade deadline to make sure he couldn't get traded the first year. So Mikel could be doing something, even if he has something already playing out with the Knicks. He could be doing something similar to make sure he doesn't get traded this year. So when it comes down to it, it's a business. Um, if you're going to sign for a little bit less, you better make sure you at least get a year out of it. Okay, that's what I have for now. I thank everybody for joining in. Um, Please follow me on X. Um, yes, I have over here NBA Economy, but also Fritz Handles. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. We're really trying to grow. It's been slow going, but I'm still hoping for 1,000 before the season. So please help out. I do also have a Cash App, which helps because the assets cost money. These programs cost a lot of money. So if you could do that, that's great. Also, a like is great. So please, please hit that like button. So thanks everybody for joining in again. Mikel B, Randu 1973. Let me see. Still Knicks fans. Mikel P, just Knicks. Thank you for joining the chat. And I will catch you next time.